Hey guys, it's Adam here. Apologize for the quick handheld nature of this video. I'm actually at Los Angeles right now for E3, so that was very cool. I actually just got back from the Xbox press conference. I got to go to that. It was a really last-minute edition, so there's my badge. Yay, I got to go to the conference. So that's why this video is up slightly later than would have been ideal, because obviously since I'm not actually in the hotel room, at least when I saw it, I couldn't film it right away. Yeah, so I'm just going to give you a basic rundown on things that happened there, and then I'm off because I'm actually going to the Bethesda conference right after this, so back and forth, extremely busy. But yeah, I made some notes, some chicken scratch scribbles here. Now, keep in mind, I actually did go, so that's a slightly different energy than just sitting there objectively watching it, although I tried my best. And you can take, you know, it's just my opinion at the end of the day, you know, just somebody's opinion, right? So yeah, let's talk about some of the games. Now keep in mind, I wasn't there at the very beginning. There was a bit of an issue. I have a buddy at Microsoft who invited me into this at the, like, really right at the tail end of the beginning of the event, if you will. So the first couple of announcements I actually missed. I know Halo Infinite was the first thing, or at least the first major thing. I haven't seen anything on it, unfortunately, so, I mean, I guess it's cool. Another Halo game. I know it's a big franchise. Obviously, a lot of people love it, and if that makes people happy, that's the best. So the first thing I saw anything of was Fallout 76, which we now know is a prequel game. It's an actual game, apparently 4 times the size of Fallout 4. But when I was seeing any of that footage, there was still a ton of people coming into the theater from where I was, so it was really very hard to see much of it. As I mentioned, I was invited to Bethesda conference in a more formal fashion, so I'll certainly be seeing more of that soon. So I'm going to try to do a Bethesda reaction video, and I apologize I didn't do an EA one. I actually completely forgot they were even doing it. I was still landing, and you know, by the time I got here and even checked, I was like, oh shit, I missed that. You know, but apparently I didn't miss much. That's not the point. So the next thing up, I was a little unclear as to what it was, because like I said, people were still pouring into the theater. I saw it was a thing for Square Enix. I couldn't tell if it was an expansion for Life is Strange or if it was actually a sequel or what it was, but it's Captain Spirit and something, and apparently it's going to be free, which is interesting. Apologize for the camera work. I know it's shoddy. Come on, guys, give me a break though. Like I'm wandering around, and then look how hot and sweaty I am. It's Los Angeles. It's hot out. It's really hot out. And I just downed a whole bunch of coffee. Can you tell? So yeah, Captain Spirit, didn't get much of a sense of that game, but you know, cool. Especially it was free. A lot of people were really cheering for that one, so I feel like I missed something. The next one up was Crackdown 3, which was interesting because they said it had been delayed, and then all of a sudden they showed us a whole bunch of footage for it, which was probably an attempt to kind of squash that issue. But yeah, it was delayed, but at least they showed us that it wasn't fake. It's not vaporware. It's going to be a thing. It looked pretty badass, so definitely looking forward to that. Next one actually got spoiled for me through a Google notification that I got right before the event. Nier Automata is being brought over to Xbox One. That's really cool. Metro Exodus, which I'm going to actually have a meeting with those guys later to check out the game. That game looked fucking awesome. Yeah, this was an interesting point because they showed it off obviously with one of their big titles, and then in general they kind of just showed like content that they're getting in addition, and then they had deals to show it first, you know, that kind of stuff. There was a nice mixture of that before they would eventually get to other things. One thing that had everybody going insane was Kingdom Hearts 3 is now officially coming to Xbox One, which is, they even pointed out, if it was Phil Spencer who actually pointed out, there's never been a Kingdom Hearts game on an Xbox platform, so they were pretty excited about that. A lot of Xbox people, of course, very interested in having that franchise over there. Next up, they showed Sea of Thieves extension, DLC content, which, very cool. I mean, that game always felt like it was lacking material, so hopefully that will help with that problem. Then they showed more of Battlefield 5, which basically we saw at the the EA conference, or I did after the fact, if you will. So it was cool just to see more of it, and just basically make the case that, you know, it's coming. That's one of those situations where EA is only paying for that space because it's just free well, not free advertising, but it's advertising. Then they showed one that was probably intended to be a big, like, reveal, but it didn't really work that way because of the leaks that happened beforehand, and that was Forza Horizon 4. Forza Horizon 4 looks beautiful, and I have such a weird relationship with that franchise, but I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are the same way, which is Forza Horizon is, I can acknowledge, a beautifully crafted franchise. The games are very well made, they're very well prepared, they're obviously very competently done, and they look gorgeous. They're just not my game. I'm just not into racing games, especially like realistic ones. I know the Horizon ones tend to be the more absurdist, more extreme, if you will, than the standard Forza ones, but I still just, I don't know, like when it comes to racing games, I've always kind of preferred your silly kart adventure type of games, like Mario Kart or Sonic All-Stars Racing, like that type of thing. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. That's exactly the opposite of my point. I'm saying it's probably fantastic. It just doesn't appeal to my specific interest, but that's cool. This was probably one of the more exciting moments, in my opinion, is myself and everyone else has been harping on how Xbox as a brand is sorely lacking exclusive content, and it kind of seems like they don't really care if they have it. They addressed that in this, like, directly. They basically said, like, straight up, like, look, we know we've had a problem with exclusive content, and we're working on it. So we've created a new division of the Microsoft Studios Xbox branch called the Initiative, and then they went on. Phil Spencer went on to mention like 6 studios, including the Initiative, that are now under the Microsoft umbrella that will be making exclusive content for the Xbox platform, with the asterisks that they'll also come to PC, I'm sure, Windows specifically. But yeah, basically they made a big thing about how, like, yeah, we care more about the actual game content. We're not gonna just have world premieres of third-party software. We're not gonna just have a couple of big franchises like Halo that you're very familiar with. We're gonna try and make like more worthwhile content with more frequency, rather than having, you know, just Rare make a game once every 5 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they're doing the right thing there. I was very happy about that general vibe. So they made a big deal about that. And then they showed more update footage of We Happy Few. That game looks really cool, which is now apparently an exclusive. At least, unless I miswrote this, We Happy Few is made by one of the teams that they bought, which would mean it's no longer coming to PS4, I would assume, unless that's some older deal or something. That wasn't crystal clear, but We Happy Few at least is definitely coming to Xbox One. So then they went on and just kind of showed more content that they obviously have certain deals with. This stuff is all things we either knew about, or if we didn't know about it, it's going to be multi-plat, but somebody made a deal with somebody to get it on Xbox stages first. So PUBG, for example, obviously a game that already exists, and they just showed like updates of the Xbox One version, and, you know, like, hey, there's more content and all that stuff. That's good. It's obviously a timed exclusive. It will have a PS4 version at some point. They showed the Tales of Vesperia re-release, a remaster. That took a lot of people by surprise, at least around me. Hip Hop Gamer was actually a buddy of mine I've met at multiple events, if you guys know that name. He and I seem to just find each other in these massive spaces. We somehow always find each other. Granted, he's easier to find because he's always carrying around his belt and like yelling out and stuff, but just by coincidence, we always tend to find each other. So I found him in there, and you can always, he's a fun time because whenever, you know something's good when he's like yelling out about it. So he went off about Tales of Vesperia, so I'm like, oh, he must like that. You know, what's interesting is that was originally, I believe, a GameCube title, unless this is a different game. I'm not gonna lie, it's not my franchise. It's not one I'm super familiar with. But yeah, good on them. They're bringing that back around. Then Ubisoft showed up for The Division 2, which I'm going to be going to the Ubisoft conference as well, so I'm sure I'll see a ton of it. Actually, I know for a fact I'll be playing that one at the Ubisoft Loft. Yeah, The Division 2 looked pretty fucking cool, and it was awesome to see a bunch of that content being, you know, kind of warmed up for it. Then they had a big thing about Xbox Game Pass, and I mean, if you're not familiar, Xbox Game Pass is a program that they have where you basically pay like $10 a month, and you have like a digital... you have a digital access to like a whole host of different Xbox content, both Xbox One content, Xbox 360, and I think even original Xbox content of the curated titles that are supported are on that software. I don't have a subscription to it. I don't really do digital gaming. I don't really support digital gaming, but I acknowledge it's obviously a really good idea. It's a really good way to get people in there. It's also a really good way to transition to digital, something I don't want, but I acknowledge is happening. And so they just were talking about expanding the program, and how, as of today anyway, like there's new games. I think Division 1, Fallout 4, and Elder Scrolls Online are all added to it. They're going to continue to expand that brand more and more and more, and they were just basically talking about how great it is and how well it's working. And then other updates they're making. They're coming up with a new version of, when you install a game on the Xbox One, and it can say something like, once it's started installing, it eventually says like ready to start. They're rewriting the algorithm, I guess, on how that works, and it's this new system called Fast Start. Essentially, the logic is that games will install faster and load faster, although they weren't super clear if that was exclusively through Game Pass content or things you actually can buy on disc or even download in the traditional way. That part I was unclear, but it will be rolled out with the new Xbox dashboard update, I believe, later this month. So that's cool. Bonus feature, I guess. Then they showed off Shadow of the Tomb Raider from Square Enix. That looked pretty cool. I regret that I did not have. I was invited to the Square Enix conference, but I just didn't have time to make it, so I won't be seeing that. But so it was good to get a sample of it here. Then they showed a skating game called Session, which I believe was actually exclusive, at least for now. Looked cool, looked visually impressive. Black Desert, which is some sort of MMORPG. I'm not gonna lie, that was the moment, that was the game that actually actively took me out of it, where I was like watching but no longer paying attention. So that probably says something, at least to my interests. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm saying it's not my cup of tea. Then the one that brought me right back around, Devil May Cry 5, I was like, holy shit, that's cool. So that was really neat to see. It looked fantastic, it seems to play fantastic. It was exciting, it was just very exciting to watch that one. Then there was Cuphead DLC. That looked fucking awesome. I mean, Cuphead was great. And I was talking to my buddy at Microsoft after the fact, and he said the new character they're adding is like way more powerful. So it should actually make the game, you know, more introductory friendly if you have that DLC. So that'll be good, because that game was hard. And then they showed off a game called Tunic, which I legit don't remember what that was. I remember it being cool. I know it's a terrible description, I'm sorry, but that's all I remember. Then they showed off this game called Jump Force, which excited a whole fuck ton of people. It was an anime game with Dragon Ball Z characters and One Piece characters and Naruto characters, like all fighting and stuff. And I'm like, that's fucked up. Not for the same reason I'm sure most people will cite. If you watched an old, I think it was like 2 months ago, maybe even 3 months ago, I did a pickups video where I was talking about some GameCube games I got from Japan, and one of them was a fighting game with those same 3 characters. And I'm like, if you're into those animes, maybe pick this one up. I don't think anybody really knows about it. It's a weird fighting game with these characters. And I was like, that's fucked up. They just made the same game again, but nobody out here knows about it. So that's kind of neat. Then one of the genuine shocks of the night, Dying Light 2. I legit didn't see that one coming. And I was like, oh fuck, that's neat, man. I'm excited about that. Because Dying Light was pretty cool. I mean, after you kind of got used to it, it was cool. But the game that excited me the most, I mean, it's unfortunate because it was just an announcement, basically, was Battletoads. I was like, fuck yes, that's cool. I'm glad you guys are bringing that back. That gave me a little bit of hope, and then at the same time took a little bit of the hope away. Because if you guys watched any of my kind of predictions, one thing I said I wanted to see was a new Conquer game. I thought that had some possibility. So when I saw that, I was like, oh cool, that means Rare's doing stuff. Oh, that means Rare's already doing something. So it is not Conker's. But Battletoads, hey, I'm happy to have that back. Just Cause 4, which was, I think, meant to be a big reveal, but that one got ruined by Walmart Canada leaks. Then they had this big thing about Gears of War. They announced a Funko Pop game with Gears of War characters called Gears Pop, Gears Tactics, and Gears of War 5. Gears of War 5, of course, logically, the one that got people the most excited. Gears Pop is intended, I think, for kids who want to play that genre and maybe just to acclimate them to the franchise before ultimately having them play something more violent, I guess. And Gears Tactics, to me, I mean, I've never been into those type of tactical games, but it to me seemed like Halo Wars, where it's like you're trying to sell a different game based on an IP. Just the fact that it's the IP already that's successful and you're making a completely different game with those characters, if that makes any sense. But Gears of War 5 looked pretty cool, like straight up just cool. So looking forward to that. Then there was 3 remaining announcements. The first one depressed me, but I saw it coming. And I've been talking about this for years. So I hope people who've been watching me for years give me some credit here. Phil Spencer came back out and he talked about how Xbox is going to expand as a brand and that they're basically making an app that they want to install in your phone and all these other things. and they want to have streaming games through your phone. I've been talking about that for years, how it would be on tablets, eventually it'll be on PCs as some sort of Steam competitor, and not necessarily in physical hardware. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, this is the moment. This is when it happened. That's what he just announced. And then the next second later, he punched me in the face in a good way by basically saying, oh, by the way, we're also working on another Xbox console. And I was like, those two fucking systems there's not a logical connection there. Part of me thinks that he had to say that to appease investors, because essentially that first announcement, if he just said that, then all of the internet's on fire with, I think Xbox just said they're done with consoles. Which you can't do that. They don't want to make that announcement. But at the same time, just saying the next Xbox console could literally mean like the Xbox One X Slim. It's a technical thing. It doesn't necessarily mean they're working on the next generation of hardware, though that's probably what they want you to believe. Now, that could very well be the case, of course. I don't know. But either way, that announcement was by far the most intriguing comment of the entire show. And then, as they were wrapping up, I like the way they did this. They made it seem like the whole show got hacked and that there was something like happening. And it was basically, of course, just obviously planned to be this other game reveal. And it was from CD Projekt Red, the Polish developers who did The Witcher, which for some reason I'm credited as a voice actor in The Witcher 3, which I had nothing to do with. But if you look at on my IMDb page, I voiced 10 characters in that game according to that page. I don't know why. I really didn't. I had nothing to do with it. But they're making a game called Cyberpunk, which looked badass. But I felt like I was the only person in the room who didn't get it, and unfortunately, obviously in a bad way, because everyone else seemed to react to it like they knew what this was. I was totally unfamiliar, and that's obviously on me if that's the case. But yeah, either way, that game did look very, very cool. So yeah, that was kind of Microsoft's conference in a nutshell. Overall, nothing that was like really super exciting to me. I mean, I like the idea that they're obviously working on some sort of iteration of hardware. That's always cool to me. I like a lot of the content they're actually producing. I like a lot of the updates, and I like the general tone of it. Like, look, we know we screwed up with exclusives, and we're working on it. That's what I like. But there was no game in particular that really just made me go, oh shit, I need that in my life. So yeah, that was kind of it. So I'd like to I doubt they'll ever watch this, but I want to thank them, of course, for letting me in and actually letting me check out their conference. Very, very cool. Own the badge. There you go. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Oh, and stay tuned again. I'm going to be doing this for Bethesda, hopefully, as well as I'm not going to the Sony conference unless something changes, or obviously Nintendo, and that one's too hard. But I'm going to probably do response videos to those. And I'll be probably doing one for Ubisoft as well, though that one might be very late because I have a whole lot of plans that day, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all later.